Hello and welcome once again to The Blueprints. This is Canada's Conservative Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Schmale, Member of Parliament for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes Brock, with new content for you every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We do appreciate you joining us here. And with this great content, we ask that you like, comment, subscribe, share this program. Together, we can push back against that ever-moving liberal agenda. And there is lots to talk about. There's lots going on in the Ukraine, lots going on in the world in general, but we are going to focus today on domestic issues, specifically the inflation crisis, housing crisis. We talk about supply chain issues, and the list goes on. So to come and talk to about it, we have Adam Chambers, a member of Parliament for Simcoe North. He's also the member of the Standing Committee on Finance and the Deputy Critic for Finance. We do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be here, Jamie.
And this is week 2 of a 2-week constituency break, I guess, if you call it. Not necessarily a break, but we're in our ridings, and so this is why, Adam, you don't get to sit in the fancy studio we have built. Unfortunately, that's Ottawa only. So, but we're here on Zoom.
As much as I love Ottawa, it's really nice to be home for an extended period of time and to be meeting with people and hearing about their issues.
Well, I'm sure you're hearing a lot about the price of a liter of gasoline right now in Vancouver Island. It's well over $2. It's approaching that here at Ontario, where we sit. And of course, our boundaries are neighbors. We're right up against each other. What are you hearing that a lot? Because I know I am.
I mean, look, I don't like to brag about the expensive places that I go to, but I did fill my car up with gas yesterday. And, it was $2 and just over $2 a liter. It's supposed to, we expect it's going to come down a little bit, but I mean, after running up about 40-50% in a short period of time, it is all that people want to talk about, because every time they go to fill up their car, it just kind of smacks you right in the face of how much we're paying per liter of gas. And of course, we have a planned increase to the carbon tax coming on April 1st. And so people are already talking about, well, how much is that going to add per liter of gas? So all total, after April 1st, we'll be looking at about, I think, 11 cents total per liter on carbon tax added to gasoline. There's already about 9 cents on there now.
Yeah, that is just incredible how much is already taxed on the price of a liter of gasoline. So when you compound this with a housing crisis, the affordability crisis, the price of groceries now are absolutely off the charts. And now we have this issue with our fuel prices, which of course will add on more cost to everything, but anything that it needs to be transported by, used by fossil fuels, that will be compounded into the price. So what this does, I get, you can go into this more, I'm sure you will, but this is discretionary spending that gets eaten into, right? You pay your bills first, and then whatever else you have, you can kind of, if you have anything left, you're able to maybe go to the movies or grab a meal out. But when that's getting eaten by the increased price of fuel, groceries, etc., there's not much left.
Well, you're exactly right. Every penny that gas goes up in Canada takes about $29 million out of the pockets of Canadians generally. So that's $29 million that Canadians discretionary spending that could go to other items, food, entertainment, out for restaurant, etc., buying clothes for your kids. So every penny takes money out of the economy and redirects it somewhere else. And, people are feeling the pinch everywhere. You mentioned, that price increase being felt everywhere. You look at the price of diesel, goods get to market in this country on trucks. They use diesel. So when diesel's up over $2 a liter, we are going to continue to feel that pressure. And the Bank of Canada just this week, just last week, raised interest rates for the first time. And they've said they're going to keep raising interest rates because they don't see an end to inflation anytime soon. A year ago, this is the central bank and even the government said this is temporary, what they called transitory inflation, but it's a year later and it's still here and there's no end in sight. What are we going to do about it? I mean, we need to continue to pressure the government to reduce its spending, to take its foot off the gas. Almost every major bank economist and all reasonable economists are now warning the government, they shouldn't be spending as much at this point in the business cycle. Inflation is super high. Growth in the economy is doing relatively well. So now is not the time to continue to spending. It's only going to have an upward pressure on inflation.
Well, we had said that 6 years prior to the pandemic happening, when we told the government you should be paying your bills or you should be saving for that rainy day. And we were told that rainy day was never going to come. And of course, in comes the pandemic, and up goes the spending and the creation of all this extra currency out in the atmosphere. So that when you what we're just talking about, that the disappearance of discretionary spending, that in many cases, often, I think in almost every case, that then slows the economy in turn, because people don't have that money to go out for dinner or play, to have the extras, right? Like go for a nice evening out, or even a vacation, for crying out loud. That just contracts everything, because we see that shortage of spending, the people struggling even more.
That's right. Now we could probably handle small, minor increases for short periods of time, but when you have economists and the Bank of Canada warning that some of these increased and elevated pressures are going to be around for a while, then people will make, different spending decisions, and it will mean that they might not go on that vacation, or as you say, might not go out for that dinner. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that gas was actually around $1 a liter. You're talking about 100% increase in 16, 18 months, or less than that. And hard for some businesses to plan, if they have an input cost that is heavily dependent on fuel, or if you're a tradesperson and you live in one of our ridings. It's a fairly large area, and you service, you might have to drive 40 minutes to a job site one way, and you might go there twice a day. I mean, you're talking about a significant increase in your costs. And it's not like you can turn around and just pass all those through to the consumer, because most people are feeling pretty stretched, no matter where it's coming at them, grocery store, or some restaurants are having to look at their prices as well, because the food prices are going up significantly. So once you start to see some of these increases persist, then you also see wages go up. And once wages go up, in all cases, they don't really come back down. So once a wage goes up, that's a permanent increase. So then a business has to then change its cost structure and what it charges its customers based on that business's cost structure. So we could be seeing some elevated prices for a little while.
Let's focus on the energy issue. You saw in the United States, it's really, I can't even believe this is happening. So 13 or so months ago, Joe Biden is sworn into office as the president of the United States, immediately cancels the Keystone XL pipeline that would have brought Alberta energy down to the United States. He then lifts sanctions on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which allowed the completion of Russian energy into Germany, bypassing Ukraine totally. The sanctions are now back on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline because of the situation in Ukraine. But yet the issue with the United States is, because they were importing Russian energy, they needed to fill that gap because demand is still there. You need to work on the supply side. So then they start talking to Venezuela. They're talking to the Saudis. They're talking to Iran. The neighbor with huge oil reserves is just right above them, supposedly our best friend. What the heck is going on?
You have to wonder, all of this that we were talking about, or told about at least, the strong working relationship between this government and the Biden administration. Canceling the Keystone pipeline was the first executive order that President Biden signed. They are now begging Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, other OPEC countries to release more reserves. We have an opportunity to think about energy security for North America. Keystone represents an opportunity to increase the amount of supply that we can actually get down into the United States, where it's so desperately needed. They're also seeing increasing energy costs and for oil. We have the opportunity to, as I say, create an energy secure market in North America. And by the way, our environmental, responsibility of our oil and gas companies have a much greater environmental record than they do in some of these other countries that we're talking about across the world. So if we can displace Russian oil, or say Russian natural gas, it's actually far better for not just Canada, but for the world in terms of better humanitarian conditions in Canada, better environmental track record with the companies that operate here. And so I would expect or hope that the Trudeau administration, and Prime Minister Trudeau, is impressing upon his American neighbors about the benefits of clean oil, ethical oil from Canada to serve their needs.
Well, that's the other thing too. Even if we wanted to supply Europe with energy, we don't have the ability to do so. The Energy East pipeline, to name one of many that were canceled, would have brought energy from Alberta to New Brunswick, which would have been able to supply the European markets. So Europe, in large part, is dependent on Russia for a lot of their energy, and so good neighbors, good friends like Canada can't even come to their rescue because we have handcuffed ourselves so much in this country that we can't get pipelines built.
Well, that's shame on us. We had the opportunity a number of years ago. There was 14 LNG facilities. If you just want to talk about natural gas for a second, a number of years ago, there was 14 LNG proposals for liquefied natural gas to get that to broader global markets. I believe now there's one proposal that might get built. That's a failure on us as a country, but our leadership in terms of seeing the opportunities. There were people warning about Europe's Russia dependence on Russia for natural gas for at least the last decade and maybe longer. So it's not like this just snuck up on us. We do have an opportunity to serve that European market. Now, we can't displace all of Russia's natural gas. It does supply an incredible amount of natural gas into Europe, but we can displace some of it. And with our allies, with those countries that are wanting to wean themselves off of Russian energy dependence. You look at Latvia. Just last week, Latvia asked for more Canadian natural gas. So what are we doing to help that ally when we have an abundance of that resource here? It would be great for everybody involved and a win-win-win. And it's, by the way, better for the environment. Canadian natural gas is being produced at a much better environmental record than the gas that's coming out of Russia.
Well, you also hear a lot of people talking right now about now's the time to invest in green technology, which is fine. I think we all support green technology. We all had an environmental plan. I think the point that seems to be missing is when the left talks about that, they talk about it in a concept that you must subtract from the oil and gas industry only to add green energy. But where is the timeline from when green energy is going to be widely available and affordable to the vast majority of Canadians? They never answer that timeline. What is going to happen in the middle? So you shut down oil and gas. What are people going to use to heat their homes or fuel their cars or et cetera, et cetera? What are we going to do to fill that until we get to the point that green energy is ready?
Even the smartest individuals who are promoting, shifting into this new green industry or green environment and green energy, all admit that not only is there a transition, but we will never take the use of oil, petroleum products, and natural gas down to zero in the world. So the question really needs to become then, what does it look like to supply the energy that we need? And how much can we do from green energy? And what will we need to do to rely on some of the carbon fuels? And yes, we can try to get to net zero, but we can do some with carbon capture and storage and kind of shifting that mix. But we will always need, there will always be a need for some carbon emitting fuels. Natural gas happens to be actually, as far as carbon emittings go, comparable to other fuels, a much lower carbon footprint than some of the other options. You look at the coal use or propane use. Natural gas actually is much better. So if we can displace the world's use of coal with natural gas, we're far better off. And who has a lot of natural gas? Canada.
Yeah.
We
it's
need
like
to be
adding to your portfolio.
This.
You don't have to subtract, you can add.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And we need to be thinking about how to promote our energy as a clean source of responsible and ethical energy for the world. Canada can be in an economic energy superpower. By the way, we export a heck of a lot of hydroelectric power in North America. That is all clean, that's all clean power. And we should be very happy about that and promoting Canada as a clean energy superpower.
I want to bounce quickly back to housing because you did touch on it earlier and I really didn't jump on it, which I should have. And then we got to close out the show. We're running out of time, but let's talk about housing. You might talked about interest rates getting a bit of a bump, I guess a week or so ago now. How do you see this playing out? Are you going to see prices? Do you think continuing to stay high? Do you think it's going to come down a bit? How does this mean for people who have already bought houses at high prices? How do you see this playing out?
It's hard to tell. I mean, the bank's been very clear. The Bank of Canada has been very clear. There will be more interest rate hikes coming. So you might see some people rushing to get into the market before that happens and to refinance and to lock in an interest rate before rates start to move up. Although they all have already started to move. Hard to predict where house prices go in Canada. I've been wrong for the last decade, so I won't get into that here. But people can expect to pay more per month for mortgage as borrowing rates go up. Hopefully it reduces some of the activity. I mean, it's been, you get whiplash looking at the charts of house prices across Canada, in particular in parts of central Ontario that are close to the GTA, including my market, as I'm sure yours as well. So it's an issue people are continually concerned about. It is not sustainable. You can't have prices go up 20, 30% a year for 2, 3, 4 years in a row and not expect that that's going to, affect the economy. You talked about, taking money out of the economy, paying higher fuel prices. Well, if you have to pay an extra $200, $300, $400 a month because interest rates go up, well, where's that money coming from? That's also money that's not going to be spent on some of those other items, discretionary spending. So, we should all care about the cost of borrowing and interest rates. But you know what? We need to get inflation under control. There's no question about it. We've got to do that work, and it might be a little bit of pain, but we need to make sure that inflation stays low and comes back down to a more comfortable level.
Absolutely. 1.2 trillion in debt and hopefully a federal budget at some point soon. Look, as you know, we always give the guest the last word, so I will turn the floor over to you.
Well, the federal budget is coming soon. What are we looking for? We want a plan to reduce the amount of deficits that this government has been spending. The parliamentary budget officer said, as interest rates are going up, the federal government can expect to spend upwards now $40 billion a year on interest. So we need to get our spending under control so that we can spend on the priorities that all Canadians enjoy. That's what I'm looking for in the budget. We need to get back to a more sustainable fiscal plan and some growth.
Couldn't agree with you more. Adam Chambers, Member of Parliament for Simcoe North. Do appreciate your time. Also a member of the Standing Committee on Finance and the Deputy Critic for Finance. A busy individual. We do appreciate him taking time out of his schedule to talk about this very concerning issue, and we do appreciate you for tuning in. Don't forget, we have new content every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also listen to it and download it on a platform of your choosing. We have CastBox, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, you name it, it is out there. And of course, we ask that you like, comment, subscribe, share. Together, we can ensure that Justin Trudeau serves his last term as Prime Minister of this country. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, low taxes, less government, more freedom. That's the movement.